The study by researchers Jennifer Gunter and Sarah Parchak sought evidence that jade vaginal eggs were recommended or used in sexual health practices in ancient Chinese culture, as the original Goop article claimed. To do so, they analyzed 5,000 jade objects from 4 major Chinese art and archaeology collections. They found a variety of objects from jewelry to weapons to furniture, but only one jade egg, which was from the Russian house of Fabergé and not for vaginal use, and 2 objects for sexual purposes, a hollow bronze phallus and a jade butt plug. The study also mentions that there was no indication of jade eggs in scholarly writing on sex in ancient China.
I have seen a double-headed dildo, though. I have seen one of those.
Well, that makes a lot more sense. I mean, that's
right. I mean, that's just
mutual pleasure, and
that's like a handshake. That's a harem handshake right there.
What culture hasn't made a dildo out of some kind of smooth material?
Loser cultures. That's who loser cultures.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even some of the more let's call them vanilla veins in the U.S. have the hole in the sheet.
I don't think that's real.
No?
No, I'm pretty sure not. I think that was actually an anti-Semitic myth.
Oh.
Yeah, you're part Jewish. You should know
I am,
that.
but I always heard that associated with like
Amish or something? Quakers?
No, not even those. I mean, like, I don't want to name names, but they're the people from Utah who claim that they can have a lot of wives and
no, I think that's just generally if somebody's got a religion that you're not that familiar with, it's like, yeah, you know about them. And I think kind of that's yeah. No, we started, obviously. So yeah, jade eggs. That's something that's really interesting because it's one of those aspects of Chinese culture that I will only hear about from Americans or Westerners. What would you say, Bree? Is this something that you would you'd hear your grandma?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But they're also called Yoni eggs. Did you guys know that?
I did,
yeah.
but I mean that's just using the Hindi word for.
I've got to read this. This is like way too good not to share.
Okay.
The Goop plug, the marketing of what they're doing. Okay, so Yoni eggs harness the power of energy work, crystal healing, and a Kegel-like physical practice. Insert the egg into your vagina and feel the connection with your body by squeezing and releasing the egg. More on how to use. Step 1, wash your egg.
I'm glad they've got that base covered. Like that's like, don't stick your hand, don't shake the vending machine.
Oh, but you know what? You can kind of get an idea for their market if they've got to spell that out.
They tell you to place it in hot water for about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And then to let it cool first.
It also sets the mood, right?
Right.
And then hold on. So here we go. Step 2, gently insert the egg into your vagina.
Okay,
like
that's
you
good.
Would a tampon.
Not like a.
Yeah, it's not a forceful technique.
I feel like you need a woman to read this. Otherwise, it's like I can't imagine Brehan doing this or Andrew doing this.
No, I wouldn't. But go on.
It's really, like, so
we would never presume.
Because,
yeah.
You just read it and in the context of 2 men reading this. Oh, okay, right. So like you would a tampon. So
exactly.
Start the larger side of the egg first. Work your pelvic floor and feel that connection with your body by squeezing and releasing the egg. What if you just pop out the egg through your vagina?
No, that's well, I think that's how there's a Thai tradition involving ping pong balls.
Oh, okay. And then until next time, clean your egg after use.
Okay, that's polite. You pop it in the dishwasher, obviously.
I'm glad they've at least got sanitation as the bookend practice.
Yeah,
that's nice.
It's in or on a space that is sacred to you or has good vibes.
Okay. So the dishwasher.
Well, I guess it'd be pretty hygienic. Anyway, so
is this a tradition?
It's black jade. It's black jade, and it looks like century egg. That's what it looks like.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Wait,
Hold on.
Can you please explain what century eggs are? Because sometimes people don't know, and that's
What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share the screen of what a century egg looks like with century
it's too bad that
egg.
this isn't smell-o-vision,
And
because we
also-
should also share the
Hey,
odor
I
of-
love those,
This is
especially with a
amazing.
little bit of Joe in the morning. You know, I love
it's
those.
a delightful garnish. You know, people
Right,
into all
here
kinds
we
of
go.
stinky stuff
Here's
with
a
food.
Google image. I'm just going to get the thing up. Okay, so
So
it's
this is a
100
fermented egg. It's kind of made into a clay jar, and then it's traditionally buried for some time. You know, usually like 100 days, or some people do it for years.
And it
Right.
like smells and tastes a little bit like blue cheese.
Yeah, it's fermented.
Yeah.
I would say it's an acquired taste, but it really is delicious. You know,
It is. It's strong. It's salty. It's good with spicy food. Like it's.
mhm.
Okay, Brian, are you
Yeah.
hosting?
I am. Do I have to
Can
allow
you
something?
allow me to share screen because we need to
I
see
don't know
this.
how to
This
do
is
that. Okay, hang on. It's gonna get shaky here.
Is that a book?
Yeah, he reads sometimes.
There you go. All right, now you can. I think you're the co-host. See if you can share your screen.
Oh, I can. Okay, check this out. I'm so excited. Okay, so this is what a jade egg looks like in case people haven't. Sorry. But
It does
this-
look like a century egg.
This, hold on, where is it gone? Oh,
I'm wondering if black jade is just cheaper.
This
There
is a
you
century egg.
boom.
Amazing.
Maybe they're just taking. I mean, jade is kind of expensive, even the low quality stuff. Maybe they're just taking the century eggs and like
It's nephrite jade.
hydrating them.
Okay, so it's cheaper jade, and I'm sure that
Yeah.
gets a better profit margin. If you say it's jade, it's like, oh well, that is why. How much do those?
They're $66
Okay.
USD. Do you guys say bucks in?
We
Yeah.
do.
Oh, you do. Fab.
Yeah.
One less.
Okay, so you know, $66. It's not the most expensive for an implement that goes in your vagina. I mean, there are certainly.
I mean, you go into any sex toy store, and you know that's a mid-range price for a quality tool.
Really is,
Get
yeah.
this. They were fined $145,000 about its claims.
What are its claims?
Okay, I'm getting it up right now. Okay, so it's claims about jade eggs for vaginas, and it's still selling them because it's probably making all of that back like so quickly as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now the jade eggs have landed Goop in a legal snafu. So when was that? 2018. So at the height of Goop, it's still going pretty high at the moment because you know they've got a particular market. Anyway, this week a group of government lawyers slapped the company with $145,000 in civil penalties for an unsubstantiated marketing claim. What is the marketing claim? Claims that they could balance hormones, regulate menstrual health, prevent uterine prolapse, and increase bladder control. They've taken those claims off since by the looks of it.
So would those be kind of claims, hypothetical claims, kind of based on Kegel exercises? That would be my assumption. As far as except for the balancing hormones, that's a pretty strong claim.
Well, there's a review going that it's a $66 placebo effect.
Okay, I wouldn't say it because there's seriously some weightlifting going on here, right? There are traditional exercises where you tighten the perineum with certain breathing practices, right? Those, if done in a certain way, you know, as part of a larger health practice, I could see that they would have effects on the body.
So, and to
However,
speak about this,
yeah,
like with some, you know, with a fair dose of compassion for the people who are being drawn to purchase this product, you know, pelvic floor disorders and a lot of women's health issues are ignored by a huge contingent of the medical community.
Mhm.
And whether it's uterine prolapse or urinary incontinence or painful intercourse or, something like that. And developing awareness of the pelvic area of the body isn't something that many women, at least in the US, are encouraged to do.
True.
And
So
so like,
even just feeling into those areas, maybe paying attention that something's going on there. A lot of people just psychologically shut down, some below the neck, some below the pelvis. It's
Yeah.
just like, all right, I'm not dealing with that at all. And you've got some women who have been shamed out of touching themselves. And the downside to that, many, of course, is that they're not that aware of what's going on in that neck of the woods. So I could see that, some type of practice, maybe it's doing the ping pong ball show, or, just having a healthy masturbation practice, or, maybe indeed a jade egg, if that can help them to become a little more self-aware and strengthen something at the same time, why not? But I think it's enough to say, here's a Kegel exercise that's based on, some ladies in Santa Monica have been trying this out and we like it. That should be enough. I think though it's a little bit offensive
You don't
to say
need
like,
to
this
get
is ancient Chinese and,
Yeah.
right, the manufacturing of a cultural practice that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you don't need to get a jade egg for it either.
You could just stop urinating.
yeah, uses the same muscle.
So what are
Yeah,
your
you-
recommendations in lieu of a jade egg? If you forget your jade egg at home,
I don't know, a ping pong ball.
there we go. And that's,
Well, it's still round. I mean, like whatever doesn't hurt, right? And what doesn't feel like too invasive for certain
Right.
women. Because
well, and people
it's-
get good at shooting those, and that's a moneymaker in some areas.
yeah, but
Or
to
something
make
you can do when you're bored in times of quarantine.
There we go.
I think my main issue is the claims that it makes, right? So
Uh-huh.
it's just like
The balancing hormones is the one that's kind of like, all right, some of the others are hypothetically, with urinary incontinence, you strengthen the pelvic floor. All right. It's somewhat reasonable, except that there are many causes for
Yes.
urinary incontinence. There are many causes for everything that they're kind of making claims on, and especially hormone balance. That's tricky, right? I think that's the most problematic one. I'm sure that's what people started to come down on them for.
Yeah, and they're not making those claims anymore as such.
Mhm.
So they do focus a little bit more on the claims of it having like a Kegel-like physical practice. So the
Mhm.
wording is a little bit more careful, particularly with all the
Right.
hype that's happened. But they harness the power of energy work and crystal healing. That's a completely different topic in itself.
Yeah, so that should be a red flag. That means absolutely nothing. Now, I'm familiar with traditional practices that involve like uses of stones and different aspects of Taoism. That's not what they're talking about. This is just kind of it's like a computer used random new age words and just cranked out some bullshit, and then they use that for marketing, and then they're like, oh, but it's an ancient Chinese mystery. Now, in the last 5,000 years, did anybody at any time use a jade egg as a toy or an exercise tool? Probably. Or a ball? I mean, probably. Does that merit 50 years of consecutive use? No. Was it abandoned? Obviously, because nobody does that. Nobody does that. Nobody in China does that unless they're really plugged into Gwyneth Paltrow and they're like, hey, this is what the rich white ladies do. Nobody does that. Ridiculous. It gets 0 stars as a traditional claim. For the science.
There was a study on it, right?
Yeah.
That's what Brian was talking
Right.
about.
The
earlier.
study on it. Yeah. The study was like, we looked at all these jade objects, and you've got little jade objects from the Qing dynasty and whatever. And, it's couples having sex and some naughty stuff, like almost like gag gifts back in the day. But there's a lot more birds and little kids peeing for God knows whatever reason. There's a lot of different artifacts, right? And it's
Look,
just,
if there's
it's
an
not that
orifice,
important.
people are going to stick things up it. That's just human nature. They stick
Right.
things.
Right.
That's why we have outlet covers for toddlers.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's
like,
just,
oh, a hole. Yes.
yeah. So somebody's going to be, a little bit, but it wasn't a standard practice culturally anywhere. So the claims made there are absolute bunk. the modern claims about it being, balancing hormones and whatever, obviously it lacks sufficient evidence that they got sued for it. And even as a Kegel exercise, it's not well substantiated that it's any better than just squeezing, right? So what do you guys think? Right now, I want to give it 0 stars on tradition and 0 stars for science, although there is kind of a hypothetical for the Kegel exercise alone. So I'm leaning toward 1 star.
How about a half star?
We can give it a half star. Okay. So a half star for the science, 0 stars, like -1, because when you're just hawking bullshit and you're like, oh, it's an ancient Chinese secret, get the hell out of here. You know what I mean? You don't get to just plagiarize other people's cultures as your fantasy canvas for whatever the hell. Like, that's the definition of Orientalism. Thank you, Edward Said, and that course I took in college.
I love that it's Andrew saying this and not me, because
you'll get angry. You'll get angry. You'll be like, fuck these hoes.
Exactly. So, which is why I'm not the one saying it, and I'm just like, yes, preach, brother, preach.
But how does that feel when people are like, oh yeah, here's some
eggs for your vagina, and ancient Chinese.
Yeah. Well, how does that make me
feel?
Yeah.
Bloody offended. like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Get your own history.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like, it's bullshit.
Yeah.